Could monoclonal antibodies be the new frontier in treating long COVID? Today, we delve into this fascinating possibility. Monoclonal antibodies, a term that may sound a bit complex, but in actuality, they're a type of protein made in the laboratory designed to interact with specific targets, known as antigens, on cells. They've been the talk of the town in the medical world for quite some time. Why? Because they have shown great promise in treating a range of diseases, from certain types of cancer to autoimmune disorders. Their unique ability to bind to specific antigens makes them highly effective in blocking the harmful activity of these targets, often with fewer side effects than conventional treatments. They can be thought of as guided missiles, honing in on their target with precision, disrupting harmful processes in the body, and leaving healthy cells unharmed. With the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, monoclonal antibodies have come to the forefront once again. This time, as a potential game-changer in the fight against long COVID, a condition characterized by lingering symptoms long after the initial infection has passed. The question that piques curiosity is, can these laboratory-made proteins be the key to unlocking a new treatment for long COVID? Can they help alleviate the persistent symptoms that many are grappling with months and in some cases even a year or more after their initial COVID-19 infection? These questions point us towards a new realm of possibilities, a new frontier in our understanding and management of long COVID. But to answer them, we need to delve deeper to understand the intricacies of long COVID and how monoclonal antibodies work. So, let's delve into this intriguing topic and see what experts have to say. Before we can discuss the potential treatment, let's first understand what long COVID is. Long COVID, also known as post-acute sequelae of SARS-CoV-2 infection, is a term that has been coined to describe a range of symptoms that continue for weeks or even months after the acute phase of the COVID-19 disease has resolved. These symptoms can affect any system in the body, but most commonly impact the respiratory, neurological, cardiovascular, and gastrointestinal systems. Patients with long COVID may experience persistent symptoms like fatigue, shortness of breath, brain fog, sleep disorders, fevers, gastrointestinal symptoms, anxiety, and depression. These symptoms can vary in severity and duration, and can significantly affect a person's quality of life. The current standard of care for long COVID is primarily supportive, focusing on managing symptoms and improving quality of life. This may involve a combination of physical therapy, occupational therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, and medications to manage symptoms. However, the effectiveness of these interventions can vary from person to person, and many patients continue to struggle with persistent symptoms despite these interventions. The need for new treatments is clear. Long COVID is not just a prolonged version of acute COVID-19, but a complex multi-system disease that requires a comprehensive and individualized approach to treatment. The current standard of care can help manage symptoms, but it doesn't necessarily address the underlying cause of the disease. This is where the potential of monoclonal antibodies comes into play. Monoclonal antibodies are a type of treatment that has been used successfully in other diseases, and there is growing interest in their potential use in long COVID. By targeting specific proteins on the virus, these antibodies could help to reduce the severity of symptoms, speed up recovery, and potentially even prevent the development of long COVID in the first place. In the face of such a complex and debilitating condition, could monoclonal antibodies be the answer we've been looking for? Having a grasp on long COVID, it's time to understand how monoclonal antibodies work. Monoclonal antibodies, or mAbs, are a type of biological therapy. They are laboratory-made proteins that mimic the immune system's capability to fight off harmful pathogens like viruses, and their magic lies in their specificity. Each mAb is designed to bind to a unique site known as an antigen on the virus. This is a bit like using a very specific key to open a very specific lock. So, how does this work in the battle against a virus? When a mAb attaches to its specific antigen on a virus, it essentially tags the virus, making it an easy target for our immune system to recognize and destroy. It's like putting a big flashing neon sign on the virus saying, "Here I am, come and get me." But that's not all. By attaching to the virus, mAbs can also block the virus from entering our cells. This is crucial because viruses, including the one that causes COVID-19, need to get inside our cells to reproduce. If they can't get in, they can't multiply, and the infection is stopped in its tracks. Now, let's bring this back to long COVID. The symptoms of long COVID are believed to be due, in part, to the ongoing presence of the virus in the body. So the idea is that by using mAbs to tag any lingering virus and prevent it from entering cells, we could potentially alleviate the symptoms of long COVID. This is still an area of active research, and it's important to remember that while mAbs are a powerful tool, they are just one part of our body's complex immune response. But the potential is there. With such a targeted approach, it's easy to see why monoclonal antibodies could be a promising treatment for long COVID. Now, let's hear from the experts. Could monoclonal antibodies be a game changer for long COVID treatment? Imagine sitting down with a leading medical professional, an authority in the field of molecular medicine, and asking them about the potential impact of monoclonal antibodies on long COVID treatment. Their eyes light up with excitement as they start to explain. Monoclonal antibodies represent a breakthrough in our fight against this persistent and debilitating condition, they say. These lab-made proteins mimic the immune system's ability to fight off harmful pathogens, such as viruses. In the case of long COVID, they could potentially target and neutralize the virus that causes COVID-19. They go on to explain that current research is promising. Several clinical trials are currently underway to test the efficacy of monoclonal antibodies in treating long COVID. Preliminary results are encouraging, showing a reduction in symptoms and the duration of the disease in some patients. The expert emphasizes that while these results are promising, it's important to remember that this is a new area of research. We still have much to learn about the long-term effects of these treatments and how best to administer them. But the potential is there, and it's exciting. They also highlight the need for continued research and development. The more we understand about the virus and its long-term effects, the better we can tailor our treatments. Monoclonal antibodies represent a powerful tool in our arsenal, but they are not a silver bullet. We need a multi-pronged approach to effectively combat long COVID. As the conversation draws to a close, the expert reiterates their optimism. The medical community is hopeful. We believe that with continued research and innovation, monoclonal antibodies could transform the way we treat long COVID. As we can see, the medical community is optimistic about the potential of monoclonal antibodies in treating long COVID. As we wrap up our discussion, let's summarize the key points we've covered today. Firstly, we delved into the somewhat elusive concept of long COVID. This term encapsulates the myriad of symptoms that linger or develop after the acute phase of a COVID-19 infection. From fatigue and brain fog to heart palpitations and lung complications, the effects of long COVID can be debilitating and life-altering, with some patients grappling with these symptoms for months on end. Next, we turned our attention to monoclonal antibodies. These are laboratory-made molecules that can mimic the immune system's ability to fight off harmful pathogens such as viruses. They operate by binding to specific parts of a virus, effectively neutralizing it and preventing it from causing further harm. We also explored the potential of monoclonal antibodies as a new treatment avenue for long COVID. The concept revolves around the idea that these antibodies could target the persistent virus or viral remnants in the body, thereby alleviating the prolonged symptoms. However, as we have stressed throughout our discussion, this is a burgeoning area of research. While the early results are indeed promising, the full potential of monoclonal antibodies in treating long COVID is still under investigation. It's important to remember that science is a process of discovery and refinement. Each new study brings us one step closer to understanding the complexities of this disease and how best to combat it. In the meantime, it's crucial that we continue to support and advocate for those affected by long COVID. Their experiences and insights are invaluable in guiding research and shaping healthcare policies. While the future of monoclonal antibodies in treating long COVID is promising, the journey is just beginning. Stay tuned for more updates on this exciting development in medical science.